Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Mindset for Mars. Today with us, we have my friend and extraordinary human being, Steve Neale. He has like a roster of qualifications. I'm going to give you just a few of them. He's a psychologist, he's a hypnotherapist, executive coach, emotional intelligence practitioner. He's winner of the UK's Best Training Course Awards. He has a partnership with the United Nations, and he's also an international author. I read his book. It's fantastic. And Steve and I met a couple of years ago at Mind Valley in Croatia, Mind Valley University. And he's actually one of the most influential people in my life. He's the one who saw me and really believed in me and told me, you have a gift, you have something to share with the world. So we have a very special relationship, and I'm really, really excited to have him today with us to talk about our crazy journey and to talk about like the depths of what it means to be human and what it takes to be extraordinary. Hi, Steve. This was a long introduction, but I really wanted to give people details about you.
Thank you, Sarana. Yeah, that was kind of cool. I mean, this is really easy for me. This is just hanging out with a buddy. So
yes, it is. But and at the same time, not just that, because we have so much to share with the world, because we're two coaches who've been through a lot, and I want people to know, like we're both, you have a lot of accolades, and I don't necessarily have all of them yet, but I do have a lot of expertise, and I think sometimes people can assume that when you have that, it's you have all your stuff sorted out, and I want to let them in on just how much we don't, and how much we've helped each other go through this process, and just how hard it's been at times. This process called life. So what do you want to share? Like share about your journey and where you were when we met, if that's something you want to share, and what it's been like for you to navigate this environment of coaching and your issues.
So I think probably the greatest gift I've ever had in my life is a complete breakdown. That sounds a bit weird, right? But rewind 3.5 years ago, on a certain level of consciousness and awareness, I was living the dream. I'd built up $1 million business. I had 3 houses. I had a beautiful house in the southwest of England, panoramic Atlantic Ocean views. Created my dream lifestyle, I thought, which was, I don't really work for anyone. I just help people. And I can travel wherever I want. I take holidays wherever I want. And almost overnight, it all came crashing down. I developed crippling anxiety, which manifested itself in the form of health anxiety. I was convinced that I was going to die, even though I didn't really have any strong symptoms. And within about a week or 2 weeks, I was so overpowered with anxiety, I was housebound. I was afraid to go out. Now, this was a little bit puzzling for me because I was the guy that helped others. I was the guy that was super qualified. I was the guy that had genuinely made a big difference in the world. I'd already worked with about 40,000 people at that point. And, I thought it was the real deal. And it was the real deal for that level I was ready for at that time, I think. But what I discovered is being human is, I think you shared this the first time with me, Sarana. It's like being the onion. You peel off a layer and there's another bloody layer underneath, and there's another. It's just that I choose to reveal about 20 layers all at once, and therefore I went into a deep crash. And anxiety and depression are best buddies. If you're anxious long enough, you get depressed. So I started to get depressed for the first time in my life, and I was like, well, what's the point of all of this? helping all these bloody people and making a difference in the world and doing what I isn't it's useless. I'm useless. I'm worthless. And it brought up a whole bunch of trauma, which I'd very successfully suppressed from my childhood. So there was lesson number one there. I was brilliant at running. My running wasn't extreme. I did drink too much wine, and I was running into my work and focusing on I need to help others rather than looking at myself. Um, but at the same time, I realized that I couldn't run anymore. When your own ego is ruling the show, and when you're chasing the wrong goals and you're living that life at a superficial level, it can't last. And during the last 2 or 3 years, I met a whole bunch of people. I tried all kinds of therapy. For the first time, I realized I needed to go back into my childhood and deal with some traumas that happened there. And the person that I have to say has helped me the most, by the way, is you, Sorana. Not just through being an amazing friend and the enormous wisdom that you have over these things, and the fact that you can just be there for someone without just holding that space unbelievably. But also, you referred me to a couple of really cool people that really did help me. And I did the work. The work will never finish. But I realized some things about myself. I gained back my sense of what it is to be male and masculinity. I realized the dream I was chasing was the wrong dream. I've learned so many lessons, and here I am today in a stronger, wiser place than I've ever been. And my work is now flowing with abundance again, and new opportunities are coming in, and amazing people are coming into my life again. That all kind of went on hold for a couple of years. Has it been easy? No. Did I hold on to one belief throughout the whole process, that this is going to be one of the biggest lessons of my life? Yes. And then the incredible parallel here, so I'd like to bring you back in here, Sarana, is even though for different reasons, we both kind of went through parallel processes. So we've had phone conversations when I've been up and you've been down, like, what's the point? And then you've been up and I've been down. And then a couple of times we timed it really badly and we were both down and we were like, oh, fuck, what a mess we are then. So that if you're going to have an amazing friend to support you, just time the ups and downs. I think that's the lesson there. But yeah, and I think what has been amazing, and what you've definitely taught me, is the level of rawness and honesty and authenticity, including all your vulnerabilities and all your stuff, makes you real, makes you human, and it makes you connect on a level that you cannot imagine with other people. It's kind of an antidote to loneliness. You can be lonely in a relationship, you can be lonely in a party with 100 people, you can be lonely in a community, but if you're the real deal, you're going to connect with people on a whole new level. And even if it's just one special person in your life, you don't feel lonely anymore. So there's kind of a lot there I shared, but that's what's been happening for me.
Wow, thank you so much, and thank you for, the level of rawness and honesty that you're going to in this podcast, because it's a lot, and to talk about all those things. And thank you so much for seeing me. I want to share one amazing thing, and by the way, like, everything that he said is true, and I was actually thinking back on it, just how hard it was at times, for both of us, especially when we were two friends and two professionals at the same time, trying to help each other, but not having any space to do it from, and still trying to be there for each other, from exactly the place we were in. Because we had a lot of ups and downs. I mean, our journeys both have been absolutely extraordinary, and we're doing amazing things. And yeah, we've grown tremendously from the moment we met. And part of the growth has been because we had each other to grow with. Growth doesn't happen alone, and it's very hard to grow when you're not being witnessed, when you're not being held in a safe space, when you don't have people to to share it with, who can challenge you. And it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do, as a coach, as a, any type of therapist, coach, etc., somebody who helps others. You can help yourself to a certain extent, but there's a point beyond which you cannot help yourself anymore. You need somebody else to hold space for you. You need somebody else to point out the blind spots that you have. You need somebody else to just, hold all of the emotion, and really tell you that it's going to be okay, because that's life. And I think, one of the most important things that you shared, and that I want to talk about as well, is that the work never ends. It's not like, oh my God, now it's all great, and I'm at this point in my personal journey where I'm done with the work. No, the work never ends. I mean, Steve helped 40,000 people, and he really did help and transform their lives. I've had the privilege of attending some of his courses, and I saw what happens to people in his courses. It's phenomenal. They walk away different people. It's incredible. And still, you were at a point where it was hard for you to help yourself. You had been running away for such a long time that you didn't even know what was there. You were brilliant at holding space for other people, but and like having them break open and talk to you about their deepest things, but you hadn't gone down into your own thing, which can be kind of like a common thing for people who are in the business of helping others. It's about running. And I like that you talk about the running. And by the way, Steve is a runner as well. Like he actually he said, he pointed it out himself. He's like, he physically ran from his problems. And
you got Forrest Gump right here.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, like, how has it impacted your work, doing all of this process for yourself? Because you were amazing before you had your breakdown. You were absolutely amazing at what you did, and you helped so many people. How did looking at your own stuff and going through this hard process of personal growth and of really, really digging deep into your own issues, how did it help you with helping others?
Enormously, on two fundamental levels. First of all, once I stopped playing a role, and by the way, I was never consciously or deliberately playing a role, on a certain level of consciousness that I was at for so many years, I thought I was good. So I wasn't pretending to be good when I felt really bad. But what I realized was there was a lot of subconscious suppression going on there. And once that came up, initially I was really hard on myself, and I was like, you're a fake, you're a fraud, you're teaching all these other people, and look at yourself right now. And then I got through that and went, and you're human. And actually, maybe it's okay if you show up in front of global audiences or in front of the teams you're training and go, I've also suffered from stress and anxiety, and I've had a bout of depression, and I've also had doubts and worries and concerns about my career, and I've also questioned it all, and I've also had relationship breakdown, and I've also had, identity issues. And doing that was, for myself, enormously freeing. And what I did is I projected out and resonated out at a truly authentic level. Way more authentic than I'd been previously, even though, like I said, I didn't deliberately hide stuff back and go, I'm lying here. I just wasn't aware of how to connect with that level of myself. And the effect of that resonated back. So the impact I've had on others has been immeasurable in comparison to previously. What's happened since? Now I'm back teaching, training, sharing. It's phenomenal how people's lives are shifting. And I think I did a good job before. I know I did a good job before, but now people are really working on their stuff and freeing themselves up. And I'm not really trying. I used to try. I used to think, right, I'm going to show up today. I need to be really well prepared. I need to this. I'm not quite a perfectionist, but I wanted everything to fit into this is how it's going to be. Now I'm just showing up. I've just delivered an 8-week training course, probably the best course I've ever written and delivered, which I am at some point going to publish because I've just realized, my God, this stuff is good. It's on a whole new level from the stuff I've trained previously. And that's still good, by the way. It's still a stepping stone, I think, to an even higher level of consciousness. But I've just delivered that week on week. Just basically a couple of hours before I went, right, what should today's session be on then? And I've got a 90-minute live session coming up with a paying audience. At one point, that would have given me so much anxiety and worry. And I've just showed up and I've delivered from the heart. So it's given me the sense, and okay, I do know quite a lot of stuff, and now I've had the experience of so many other things. I've got a lot to share, but I'm so much more relaxed and within myself, and that comes back. People feel it, and they're opening up and sharing even more their vulnerabilities and their true self. And then, of course, we're not just leaving people in that hole. I'm coming with a whole bunch of ideas, tools that might help them. And I don't know what helps everyone because we're all individual, So, well, that might work. That worked for me. That didn't work for me. Give it a try. There is no one method for everybody that's universal. But what I do know is this stuff is completely changeable, and it's the suffering, as I would call it, is also the richest gift because it's all part of being human. And if you connect with that and you allow it to be there with a sense of, you're going to get through it, but you do need support, So I think what you said there also, Savannah, is at some level we resonated and we connected, and I don't believe that was by coincidence. And we needed the support of each other during that time, and it was invaluable. I don't even know if I'd still be here without that. And that's the honest statement. There were times when I was like, well, screw this then. What's the point? And you were at the end of a call every time. And I think it kind of went mutual as well. We had a couple of calls the other way around. I was like, oh, don't bloody do that tonight. I'm in the wrong country. You can't do that. Come on. Just hang around for another day or two. And I'm so bloody glad we did, because our gift to the world is enormous. And by the way, just for those people listening, I know I've got all the accolades. I know I've got all the stuff behind me. The lady I'm sat with here has got so much more. She's on a whole different level to me. And so all I can say is watch out, world.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I'm gonna qualify it differently. I'm gonna say that we have very different styles and we have very different audiences, and that the world needs both of our gifts in equal measure. But I feel really, really touched by that, and thank you. And yeah, I do want to share this with the audience. For me, again, the process was not linear, and it's very interesting when you're used to creating suffering in your life and creating pain and loneliness and misery, especially if it was modeled by a parent that you loved. You will recreate it. You get through it once and it's like, oh, fantastic, I'm out of this. And then you are like, well, happiness is so weird and so foreign. What is this? Nah, I think I'm gonna go back to that miserable place, because that's what and that's also how you're staying loyal to that parent. It's like, oh, that makes me be closer to mom. And for me, literally, it was also because I had ruptured my relationship with my mother, who is mentally ill and in a very advanced state of illness. And it was at a point where I just couldn't be in her life without destroying my own. So I decided I'm going to remove myself from that, just to stay sane and have some form of happiness. And I went through a horrible breakdown, breakup, everything. And then I was like, oh, I'm great. I wrote a book. Everything was fantastic. I learned so much. And then 3 years later, I recreated something similar. And of course, it was for a shorter, way shorter period of time. I dealt with it. But for a month and a half, I was in that space. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm back here again. And felt like such a fraud. And all of those emotions that kind of jump started my process and were my initial breakdown, I revisited them. And Steve was there for me, having to tell me, Sarana, you're not the person you used to be. You're not that person anymore. You know so much. You've evolved so much. And me being like, no, like I'm back there. I can't believe it. I'm such a fraud. I shouldn't be coaching anybody. I cannot help anybody with this. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing to see just how powerful our attraction towards patterns is. And it's invaluable to have somebody who sees you and also who's seen both sides of you, because you could, you had also seen me as a coach, you had also seen me help others, and you were able to to tell me, Sarana, you're not a fraud, which was invaluable. And also I want to tell everybody, like, Steve has this phenomenal gift of seeing people. That's the biggest thing that he did for me, is that he saw me. And he also, and this is something phenomenal that I actually want to share. And I even wrote in my book about you and this gift that you have and how much it changed my life. Steve makes a point of telling people that they're great, and he tells them over and over and over again. And I have witnessed people, when we met at Mind Valley, I witnessed people over the course of 2 weeks in which he told them, he celebrated them, he told them how great they were. People transformed before my eyes in that space that he was holding. So one of the most important things that I learned from Steve is tell people. Keep telling them how much you love them, how special they are. Remind them of their gift, remind them of their powers. Thank you for that. And this is definitely not a typical podcast session where I'm asking you questions. It's very much like a conversation, but I think it's important because I want everyone to understand just how profoundly changing a relationship like ours can be for somebody's life.
Yes. And I think, picking up on what you shared, the deal for me is maybe I do have this ability to see people, but it's also coming from a belief that everyone has got so much beauty inside of them, and is, so much of our potential gets suppressed because of what we were suppressed as a child, through our teachers, through our parents, through society. And that ability to see people, it has to be authentic. It's got to be real. Don't go telling people they're great if they're not in a certain area, because that's just misleading. But if you tune into people, you can, and it's like society often teaches us to see the bad in people, right? It's the news, the media headlines, when the guy cheats on his wife, the famous person, or the politician is corrupt. So we're fed daily with the negative side of human nature. And it's almost like you change your glasses for a day and you just go, do you know what? How about I see the good and potential in people? And this is not to be naive and say everyone's going to be your best friend and everyone's going to be a world changer. And I definitely believe we have to be careful who we hang out with, because first of all, often who we attract is the resonance of our own energy. So, if you've got a whole bunch of sad and depressed and unhappy people in your life right now, maybe you want to look at yourself. And if you're surrounded by a bunch of high-flying people, maybe that's telling you something as well. And that's definitely something I've absolutely noticed in my transition in the last 3 or 4 years. But at the same time, we can still come from a place of kindness and compassion. Even if someone's not going to be our buddy or doesn't feel like they've got the potential to change the world, they're still going to have something. Um, and it's got to be real and it's got to be authentic when you share it, and in your case, and this is also so true, and one of the many myths and beliefs that got completely shattered in my mind in the last years, thankfully. You have to, this nonsense that you really need a long time to really feel someone and know someone and get close at a heartfelt level. This is nonsense. I absolutely collapsed with a level of connection with you after about 15 minutes of meeting you, because we were sat at a dinner table with some mutual friends opposite each other, a beautiful balmy evening there in Croatia. And I just asked, so what's your deal? I think that was, or what's your story? And you just went, bang. Well, here's the deal, mentally ill mother and da 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 da. It wasn't like, well, I'm here and I'm a coach and I'm a consultant. You went right to a level of depth and honesty that just blew me away. And right there at the table, I was like, oh my God, oh my God. I felt so much connection, authentic connection in that moment. And then I kind of went, well, there's a friend for life. That's pretty easy. And then I've had this since, when I've seen people open up to a level of real depth with relative strangers on courses or in situations. And they're like, I know you better and I feel you better than a 20-year-old friend or my wife who I've been married to for 30 years. And so it's all about the quality of our authentic connections, the truth behind it, which sometimes means sharing our vulnerabilities as well. But my advice would also be share your vulnerabilities with caution, because some people will abuse them. It's not everyone that can be trusted to hold that safe space for you. But if you do have that person, and I think, that was something mutual about both of us, the level of connection can be phenomenal in a very short time. You don't need to wait for 20 years to be best buddies.
Yeah. Wow, I do remember that. Thank you for taking me back to that. So much emotion, like things that I'm really, really touched. And thanks for bringing that up. That's such a big myth in the world. And the reason why it takes time for people is because people are very closed off, and understandably so. I mean, the history of humanity is that we've hurt each other immeasurably over time. So people are weary. And we live in unprecedented times of peace and of people awakening to a new level of consciousness, and people being able to trust each other, because we live in a world of relative plenty where we don't need to, steal from each other just to survive, and we can collaborate. And it's a whole other world we live in that fosters this level of trust and openness. So I'm completely aware of that. But yeah, being able to connect with people is actually a function of how open your heart is and how available you are. It's not a function of time. It doesn't take 20 years to make a friend. It can literally, you can be friends in an hour. And of course, you go, like, the relationship deepens as you go through things with that person, and the level of connection will be phenomenal after 2 years of going through stuff. But it only deepens what you're open to. And so it can happen in an instant, because if it's open heart on open heart, which both of us, we were like, I want to connect. I'm here, and this is me, and I'm raw, and I'm vulnerable, and I'm willing to share this. And it was like both of us meeting, because there were other people at that dinner table who were not at that level of openness. So, they were like, oh, that's a nice story, but I'm not going to resonate with it because I'm not ready to open my heart. It's just like, I remember when I had my heart closed, it was before my healing, my miraculous healing through meditation. I'd always, people used to tell me, oh, like, I think like before I knew you, I thought you had a stick up your ass. Like I was the stick up her ass girl. I was like very like reserved, and there was a wall about me, and I would only be able to be myself with very few people who were, I trusted. And after this miraculous meditation healing, at some point, I had another just like wow, mystical, phenomenal moment when I just felt this pressure in my heart, and it was so intense. I felt like, oh my god, I have to lie down. And then my heart, like I just felt like so much love for the people in my life. I think probably my heart chakra uh, opened or something happened there. I don't know the exact energetic you know thing that happened there, but something massive happened. And then the next day I went out with some girls for lunch, and suddenly I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be natural and connected to people. Oh my god, wow. And I was like, from that day onwards I was a different person. But my heart had been closed for such a long time, and a lot of people's hearts are closed because when we're little we have traumatic experiences, and it's like, oh, I'm going to protect myself. And usually hearts that are broken, or that, when you've not been met in the world as a child with the love and the openness that you expect when you're born, then the heart closes. So that's why a lot of people don't connect. But with us, we were like, boom. And
it
yeah,
felt safe. It just felt safe and very natural, I think, and that's important, that it should feel safe. Otherwise, yeah, don't
yeah.
open your heart to everyone. It's yeah.
And I think one other thing that I would love people to know is that also don't idealize these relationships, because we've had our ups. I mean, we've had ups and downs. Because love is complicated, and all of our wounds come out. So there were times when I made myself too available, um, and I resented Steve. And it wasn't Steve's problem, it was my problem, because I didn't know how to set boundaries. And I was mad at him for about a month. I was like, he took too much from me. And he didn't take, I gave, but I gave without knowing how much to
Yeah.
give. And um, then, because a friendship and a connection like this, you calibrate it, you work through it. I told him, I communicated, and we took our time to like reset, and then our friendship got better, not worse. It got better.
And the big thing, the only real unit I've discovered through all of this, of anything, this is my take, is energy. We're all just energy, and we give energy and we receive energy, and the environment that you're attracting will be a mirror back to you of the energy you're sending out. And we need to be aware of that. So many people look to the answer by changing the stuff around them, but that doesn't do anything. Well, if I just get to be here, I'll be happier. If I just get to have that relationship, I'll be happier. If I just get to have that car, I'll be happier. But that doesn't work unless we've done the inner work. Ultimately we've got to look within ourselves, and then maybe some of those things, if they still are desirable to you, will come into your life, but you'll attract them. It's not the same as the law of attraction. It's more like, things don't just happen and appear for you unless you're resonating out at that level. And my own example of that is when I was still living in the UK, and I was struggling before I'd met Sarana. I pretty much, I'd been working on a global basis with big company CEOs and senior politicians and millionaires and seemingly successful people. I emphasize the word seemingly because they all had a bunch of stuff going on underneath, because they're human. But within a year of my crash, I found the only work that I was attracting, and I'm not criticizing these people, by the way, but it was in a small local charity, mental health charity. And my main target of my coaching was not, or my therapy was not to help a global CEO take his company to the next level and change the world, which was the stuff I was doing before, or make a big impact on the planet. It was to help a depressed person get out of the door and go to the supermarket tomorrow. So, but that's the level I was at. So I got it back. And I think, a really good learning I've had is just take a proper look at the friends in your life, the relationship and the level of that, the things and the people that are coming into your life and you're attracting. And you can learn a lot about yourself and where you're at right there. And it's interesting that we have been through our waves and we've both been down and we're now very much on and up. And that may change again because we're human. And I've realized as well not to be afraid of that. It's this. A guy on the golf course said to me last year that we're just like a Ferris wheel, and we constantly turn, and we'll have our spring and our summer at the top, and we'll go into winters again, and then but nothing stops. And when you're in those lower moments where it feels really bad, it feels pointless, if you've got the issues coming up, don't give up, because the wheel will keep turning, but you need some support as well. You need someone that you can be real with, and whether that's a friend or professional help. We don't have to do this stuff alone.
Yeah. And it's sad that so many people don't have that person. Somebody wrote to me a comment on Facebook the other day, like, oh, you share a lot of your vulnerabilities, and is this how you do it in your personal life with people as well? And I was like, yeah, I create a safe space for people in my life, and that's what my life is about creating safe spaces and being able to share yourself as you really are. And I share the stuff that's already processed, because I was able to process it in my personal life, in my therapy and my friendships and in my personal space. And he's like, there are no safe spaces. And that really struck me. It was like, wow, we have a very different reality, but the reality for so many people is that they have nobody to be raw and real with, that it's not safe for them to be raw and real with. So they don't get to have that. So they cannot grow, and they're really stuck in this space of inauthenticity, and a space of, terrible, horrible, toxic dynamics that keep on going and going and going, because that's all that can be created from that level of, I'm going to put on a mask. This is what it needs to look like. And yeah, that's part of my mission, is to hold space for as many people as possible. And by showing myself in this raw and vulnerable way, and by letting people know how extraordinarily healing it can be to help others be vulnerable in that way as well. Steve, I wanted to ask you, because you were talking about your big world-changing projects, and one of the things that Steve and I share, and I think is phenomenal, is that we're extremely big thinkers, and we're always focused on ultimately there's a savor in us that definitely comes from a place of childhood was hard, but we made the best of it. We're like, we want to change the world. We want to create a huge impact. We want to leave the world better than we found it in some way. So I'd love it if you could share some of your projects and some of your visions and some of the stuff that you're working on, or just some of the things that you would love to accomplish during your lifetime. I mean, you have a partnership with UN. There's so much there.
Yeah, I guess so. So, well, right now, one of the things that I guess I definitely see as an achievement, although I've only just started, is changing an education system. So, one of the many countries I've worked in is Lithuania, a small Baltic state. And now my program, or a converted version of it, is taught in every single school. So kids are getting lessons in, self-worth. They're getting lessons in empathy. They're getting lessons in understanding and managing or being aware of emotional states, running parallel to the other stuff, the geography, the mathematics, and the language lessons. And so that was kind of an exciting project. And now we've got the model, and we've got the data, and we've seen the impact it's had on schools. because we also taught the teachers how to work with this stuff and also invited parents to be part of the projects. Uh, that's been kind of cool. One of the things that's going on for me currently, and I can't say which country because it's confidential, but is I'm trying to change right now a parliament, which is quite a job,
Wow.
because it occurred to me that there's probably a copy paste going on around many countries in the world that sadly, because of fear and egos, a lot of leaders get into a position of power, but then they want to hold on to that power and they kind of get addicted to the power. And then fear comes, and a lot of them lose their sense of true values. They'll just basically, shift with the wind depending on what's popular at that time, and then they get. And that's a fear-based approach. And I've teamed up with one amazing politician who believes in a more love-based approach to the way in which government should lead countries and make decisions, which is pretty radical thing, right? Talking about love in a political system, talking about love in legislation, talking about love in the way we lead our organizations and our multinationals. And so I'm working on helping that gradual shift together with the president of that country, not the president, the prime minister, to slowly shift the emphasis from fear-based leadership and decision making to love-based. And so that's kind of cool. And there's a lot of stuff going on there. And one of the things I've realized myself, actually, which I think is universally applicable, doesn't matter whether you're the leader of an organization, you're the leader of a country, or whether you're the leader of your own life. So many of us, particularly in the times that we're going through right now, are making our choices and decisions from a place of fear rather than love. Fear to, I don't want that, fear to escape, fear of scarcity or missing out or not being good enough. And if we can make that shift more and more to a place of love of ourselves, first and foremost, because without that, we kind of got nothing. But I also believe it's a bit of self-development nonsense that just love yourself and you've got everything. No, we're social animals. We need intimacy. We need connection. We need love of others as well. Otherwise, we are starved of a fundamental human need. But nevertheless, start with yourself and then look at more creating a life based on what you love, and the love of things rather than the fear of moving away from something or, avoiding something. So that's the kind of current project. I don't know, Joanna. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. I just trained 80 ambassadors to help a country sell itself, which is that's kind of cool. What are you selling? Well, I'm selling the country. All right, well, but again, from a place of a place of authentic values-based, belief-based love, rather than I should be in a role and therefore I'm going to be superficial as long as I get my big paycheck at the end of the day. And that was interesting to see how the momentum gathered there. People came more and more to the live sessions I was delivering, and by the end of it we had the highest attendance than before we started. So the word spread. There's something a little bit different going on here. It's a different approach to diplomacy. It's kind of diplomacy based on authenticity and honesty. Imagine that. So that kind of stuff is going on. Yeah, I don't know. That's a few projects that are happening right now. I'm very, here's what I'm really passionate about for the future. And I don't know, we've had a couple of talks about this, so there might be a bit of a shared interest here. There's a lot of talk around, the changing situation and a different world emerging and stuff. But the one thing that I've been aware of for a long time is I want to be more and more helping conscious leaders. I know it's a bit of a buzzword right now, but leaders that want to grow their organization with a heart, where they genuinely care about themselves and the life quality of the people that are connected, but also their product or their service is benefiting others and the planet. Not in a superficial way that you buy this expensive perfume and you're suddenly going to be some Hollywood superstar, but in a real way that, it gives people real lasting emotions, the kind of serotonin, oxytocin based stuff rather than the dopamine addiction stuff that so many people are addicted to. So I've been doing more and more projects with global social entrepreneurs in the Middle East, an amazing women's organization in the Middle East. I connected a little bit with the Ministry of Happiness in one of the Middle Eastern countries. They got a Ministry of Happiness. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why shouldn't we all have ministries of happiness? And that's definitely something I want to work more on in the future. Not just helping organizations succeed, but helping the right organizations succeed. Yeah.
I love that. I told you guys that Steve is a huge thinker, and yeah, that's why we're friends as well, among many other reasons. I love that, and I've seen this theme again and again, the love theme. There's politicians talking about it, or even Marianne Williamson. She ran for president in the U.S. I mean, she didn't get very far, but just the mere fact that she ran on a platform of love, I think, is phenomenal. And we have a common friend, Nicole Gibson, who has a whole organization based around love, Love Out Loud, which is pretty amazing. And so, yeah, this theme is huge. But I think what's really interesting is that as this love theme is growing in the world, so is the fear theme, because this whole pandemic, what it brought out is people's fears of all kinds. I mean, for everybody, it's different. It's not necessarily even the fear of being sick. It just was like, fear of losing my my livelihood, fear of being alone, fear of being controlled, fear of being, not being able to move freely. I mean, it literally exposed every single fear that humans have. And I think we're in a way at a crossroads where it's like, okay, the shadow of the world has come out. And collectively, and that's always a good sign. We were actually, Steve and I were even talking about this before we started recording, is that whenever you set an intention to heal something, that intention will bring stuff up from your subconscious. So I think in a way, this whole like huge fear, collective fear, has been brought up by humanity's intention and desire to awaken itself. So it's like, hey, look at all your shadow. Here it is, presented before yourself. And our responsibility as coaches and leaders and conscious humans who and I'm not saying conscious humans as like, oh, hey, look at us, we're woke and that makes us better, but just we are at a point where like, oh, I'm starting to get this, and that gives you more responsibility, not less. It doesn't make you better, it just gives you more responsibility. But yeah, I think it, from that place, it's like, oh, wait, it's our responsibility to help the world heal its shadow.
Yeah. And it's such a cliche, and I almost can't believe I'm going to say this now, but it's bloody true. Love does conquer fear. And I've read about it, and people have sung about it for years, and artists have painted about it and written poetry about it, but it's bloody true. And actually, if we resonate at that level of love of life, love of people, love of what we do, fear can't live at the same time with it. It's not like you have to consciously remove the fear if you're in the place of love. It just cancels it out. And I think this is a huge lesson for all of us right now, and it's so needed right now. But the hard work is that we have to learn to go within, and that kind of self-love first. It's just not going to work if you're just like, and it's to an extent, it's what I did, and I had to come back to. I loved all my clients. I loved my work. I gave energy. I helped many thousands of people. And somewhere along the line, I kind of forgot myself. And it's kind of weird, and it's, it's not the reason I do what I do, and still it's not. But the day I got I had so many accolades and so much positive praise come from people. Oh my God, Steve, you've changed my life. You've changed my life. And And the day I got the call from the UN saying, we've looked at your online program, it's phenomenal. We'd like to go into partnership with you and share it with disadvantaged communities to really release potential around the world. And we're going to translate it into Arabic and this and this. And we'd like to invite you to the UN Congress to be keynote speaker in September, come to New York. And I got off the phone and went, yeah. And I went back to bed because I was in a place of depression at the time. And I went, that was the UN. It didn't mean anything, and that is simply because I hadn't, at the deepest level, and I still probably haven't, because maybe it doesn't exist, but at a deeper level than I had previously, learned to love and accept myself, and actually recognize, okay, not from a point of arrogance or think I'm ever better than anyone else, but just a reasonable level of acceptance of what I have as a gift, just like everyone that is listening to this call has, and maybe they haven't fully realized it yet or appreciated it yet. Just like you, Sarana, who finally is getting it and getting what an amazing gift you do have. And it's so good to see that shining now and starting to resonate out, because it's been too bloody long. Just saying.
I think this is actually a great place to end. I love quitting while I'm ahead. So yeah, it's fantastic. Steve just gave me like phenomenal praise. I'm gonna cut him off here so they can't say anything else about me. That's not as great.
All right, I'll tone it down. We're not quite ready for that level yet, but we're getting there.
I'm accepting all of it, and I'm still self-sabotaging. My internet doesn't work at times, and my recording equipment doesn't work, and there's still barriers there to having my voice heard, but I'm definitely getting there. And it's a process, and I want my audience to know that it's a process, and sometimes we're so scared to share ourselves that it will manifest itself in the real world in the most interesting of ways. But I'm ready, and thank you, Steve. This I think is one of the best episodes I've recorded. And all my guests are phenomenal, but having friendship and being able to share this much authenticity is always extraordinary. And I love you, Steve, and I appreciate you so much and what you do. And thank you for being on this podcast, and thank you for being in my life, my friend, my coach, my coachee at times. all the things that make our relationship extraordinary. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Steve Neale, phenomenal friend, phenomenal coach, phenomenal professional, and phenomenal human being.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now you got me. That was a lot. Thank you very much.
See? Always good while you're ahead. All right, everyone. That was the episode with Steve Neale. Catch you in the next one. Bye.